Hello, I'm Walt Anderson, Coordinator of Football Officials for the Big 12 Conference. On behalf of Rogers Redding, National Coordinator for College Football Officiating, recent changes to the blocking below the waist rules have been finalized, and we can now review these rules as they will be applied for the 2013 season. Rule 916 defines the new low block zone. It identifies which players can block low from the front or side within this zone, and it describes the limitations to low blocks both before and after the zone dissolves. The newest change since our latest edition of this video involves the addition of the crackback rule, which was an unintended omission from previous language. The theme of the new rule places the emphasis on the block itself, rather than the starting position and direction relative to the sideline that created such inconsistency and misunderstanding of the old rule. With the two specific exceptions of peelback blocks and crackback blocks at the snap, this new language should make the rule easier to understand for coaches and players and easier for officials to consistently enforce. We will review these new rules and show some examples of legal and illegal blocks. With the new rules on blocking below the waist, we have a blocking zone that is defined by the location of the normal tight ends on the side, 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, and then extending back all the way to Team A's end line. Linemen within the 7-yard split of normal tight ends, and stationary backs at least partially inside the tackle box and the second lineman are allowed to block within this zone from the front and the side. Once the ball moves out of this zone, it disappears, and Team A blocks below the waist are only allowed from the front, and Team A players may not block low at all when moving back toward their own goal line, which is a peelback block. In addition, players outside the zone or in motion cannot crack back low, even if from the front, if that block is at or just after the snap and is back toward the original position of the ball. In this play, you're going to see what was last year a legal block because of the direction of the block. But this year, this same block is illegal because the force of the initial contact is not from the front and is outside the blocking zone by this restricted player. In play number 2, you will see a block that was an illegal crackback block last year. And this is exactly the type of play that created the final change in the rule, as this remains a foul for this year. Even though the block is from the front, it meets the requirements of being back toward the original position of the ball immediately after the ball is snapped. While previous language made this block potentially legal because it met the 10 and 2 o'clock requirement, this is the type of block the Rules Committee has deemed dangerous and is a foul. In play number 3, you will see the right tackle loop outside the blocking zone and come back in and block the linebacker low. This is a legal block because although the ball has moved outside the zone and therefore the low blocking zone dissolves, this block, like the previous play, is clearly with force from the front and meets the 10 and 2 requirement. However, this player was not restricted, and this is not considered a crackback. Play number 4 is another play that last year was called a foul because the direction of the block was judged to be away from this player's adjacent sideline. This block in 2013 is a legal block because the force of the initial contact is clearly from the front. While not specific language in the rule, the intent is for defenders to have an opportunity to protect themselves rather than being blindsided with a block that they cannot see coming. However, the fact they may not see the block cannot be considered by the official in determining if the block is legal or illegal. We have two specific provisions, the peelback block and crackback blocks, that are the only two areas we rule on the direction of the block as opposed to the force of the initial contact being from the 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock position. As Rogers has clearly stated in his application examples of this rule, the principle behind the rule is to increase the odds that a player will see a block coming, but the rule is not going to be perfect in every situation given the vast dynamic circumstances and complexity of individual plays. This block was a foul last year and is again a foul this year. This is the peelback block that is low and back toward the blocking player's own goal line. Unlike last year, the peelback block outside the low block zone is a foul this year whether beyond or behind the line of scrimmage if it occurs after the ball has left the zone. Play number 7 is a peelback block because it is low back toward the blocker's own goal line. Linemen and stationary backs inside the tackle box are allowed to block low within the low block zone, as was mentioned in the introductory comments on Rule 916. If the ball were still within the low block zone, this block by the right guard would be legal. However, in this play, because the ball appears to be outside the position of the normal tight end as the block is made, this peelback block has become a foul, even if it were from the front. The difficulty on this type of block is that the officials most likely to make this call, probably the referee or the umpire, may be uncertain as to the location of the ball relative to the low block zone because they are focused on blocks and not the ball carrier. This is a good example of where these types of blocks behind the line of scrimmage can be illegal if they occur once the ball has left the low block zone. Play number 8 is a good example of a block that last year was technically legal because it occurred behind the line of scrimmage, but this year is an illegal peelback block and is a foul. It does not matter this year if a peelback block is behind or beyond the line of scrimmage. Once the ball leaves the zone, it is a foul.
Personal foul, block below the waist. Number 75 in the offense was blocking back towards his goal line.
Yeah, you can't do that there. That right there is dangerous.
Play number 9 is similar to a previous play and involves a lineman who makes a low block from the front, but because the quarterback has scrambled and the ball has initially left the zone, the low block zone dissolves and no Team A player is allowed to block low back toward his own goal line. Even though this block is clearly from the front, it is a peelback block and is illegal anywhere on the field because of the direction in which it is made. When going against the flow, Team A players must block above the waist but below the shoulders. We will talk about high hits on another video. Our final play in this training video is another peelback block that is a foul because it is low and back toward Team A's goal line after the ball has clearly left the low block zone. Even though from the front, this is a good illustration of the new rule as described in Section C of the 2013 Rules Changes and has been distributed to all coaches and officials. We hope this training video is useful to coaches, players, and officials by giving you some examples of the new rules on blocking below the waist. This is a major change for 2013, and all of us will be available to help answer any questions.